Hello and welcome to Competitive Crunch Meet Pokémon X Edition. My name is Spade and today we are going to take a look at Aegislash, which is truly a unique Pokémon because Aegislash and its evolutionary family are the only ones that are Steel and Ghost type. There are currently no other Pokémon that would share this unique type combination, and Aegislash also has this unique ability called Stance Change, which allows it to change forms during battles at will between the shield form, which is on the right, and the blade form, which is on the left. Aegislash also has its own signature move called King Shield, which I will talk about more later during this video. But now I will tell you a few interesting facts about Aegislash that you may or may not know. So, Aegislash, when you send it out to the battlefield, it will always come out in the shield form. If you change forms into the blade form and then you switch out and come back in later during the match, it will still come out in the shield form. And you can change forms into the blade mode by simply using an attacking move, so something that deals damage. For example, Shadow Sneak, Shadow Claw, Sacred Sword, or Cut, or Aerial Ace, or any attack that deals damage. And Aegislash will turn back to the defense stance by using King Shield. So that is the only way during the battle, besides switching out, that you can turn back into the shield form, by using King's Shield. No other non-attacking moves work. So let's say you have used Sacred Sword, and after that you will use Sword Stance. Aegislash will not change forms. The only way to do it is by using King Shield. So King Shield and switching out are the only way to turn Aegislash back in to the shield stance. So the moves such as Sword Stance that I mentioned, and let's say Auto Demise or Protect, or what other moves it gets, Iron Defense, Power Trick, LOL, those will not do anything to Aegislash's form. It will stay in the form that it is. And Aegislash will change forms right before it makes a move. So unlike Mega Evolutions that have priority, Aegislash will change forms right before it makes a move. So this is something that you can definitely take advantage during battles. So for example, first when you're in the shield form, you're gonna be, because Aegislash is naturally pretty slow, you are first going to take a hit from the opponent in the defensive shield form, and then you're gonna flip over to the blade form and then slice the opponent with a Sacred Sword, for example. But yeah, that is just one example, but definitely something that you need to keep in mind whenever you are using Aegislash. And also, because it is part Ghost types, that means Aegislash cannot be trapped by abilities such as Shadow Tag, Magnet Pull, Arena Trap, or some random moves like Mean Look or Block, for example. But for example, Shadow Tag Mega Gengar that's running around everywhere, it cannot trap Aegislash. Because something you gotta keep in mind, Aegislash without any boosts, it cannot one-shot Mega Gengar. So if you are feeling uncertain, you know, if the Gengar hasn't taken any damage, you have the opportunity to switch out because Shadow Tag does not affect it at all. And also, if you're running into a random Wobbuffet, you don't need to deal with its shenanigans. You can just switch out because of the new Ghost type mechanics. And now let's take a look back at the stats of Aegislash. And in the defensive shield form, Aegislash has 150 defense and special defense. And I think everybody who has faced this Pokemon knows how bulky it is. It is incredibly difficult to one-hit KO, even with super effective stab moves. And when it changes into the offensive blade form, it will have 150 attack and special attack. So even though Aegislash is seen more of as a physical attacker, you do still have the option at least to use special attacks, even though arguably its physical move pool is better than its special one. And then its HP and speed are both 60 in both of the forms. And the speed honestly isn't too big of a problem for Aegislash because it does have ways to bypass it. It does have that really good natural bulk, and when you couple that with the King Shield and also Shadow Sneak it has access to, it has kind of a way to play around the mediocre speed stat that it has. But base 60 HP is kind of low, but that's kind of just natural for a lot of ghost types, that they don't have that high of HP. And gotta say, it's definitely a good thing that it doesn't have a higher HP bar, because otherwise it would be even a bigger pain than it already is. And it's definitely a good way to for Game Freak that they kind of balanced it out, because they gave it godlike defenses, but then they balanced out its HP, and it's not that great on the HP stat, and that is definitely a good thing. But now let's move on and take a look at the type chart. What does it say about Aegislash? So it takes neutral damage from water and electric type moves, and then it is weak to ground, ghost, fire, and dark. And back in Gen 4 and 5, people were really waiting for a ghost steel type, because it would only be weak to ground and fire. But of course now the steel type got kind of nerfed, and now that means that Aegislash is now weak to ghost and dark types as well. But coupled with the natural bulk it has, and the fact that it kind of deals well against the most of ghost and dark types anyways, that's not really the issue. The biggest problem for Aegislash are definitely the bulky ground types that can retaliate with powerful EQs. But then let's take a look at the immunities and resistances that Aegislash has. So, starting with those immunities, Aegislash is immune to normal, fighting, and poison. And then it resists flying, rock, bug, steel, grass, psychic, ice, dragon, and fairy. So out of 18 types, it basically does well against 11 types out of 18. So basically, in a nutshell, Aegislash is gonna be forcing a lot of switches, being immune and resistant to so many different types, which means it's gonna have easy time setting up on the switches, because it's gonna be causing them a lot, because it is only weak to 4 different types. So you definitely have to be scared of this Aegislash, because it has so many immunities and resistances. And this is why a lot of people were really hoping for a ghost steel types, because it would be a really great defensive typing, and that is indeed what it is. Great defensive beast. And now let's take a look at the moveset of the day. And if you have been doing competitive Pokemon battles in Generation 6 already, this is the kind of Aegislash that you have most likely ran into multiple times, and it is most certainly one of the most efficient movesets that Aegislash can run, and that is why everybody is pretty much using it. It's kind of funny how Aegislash had a lot of hype coming in. Everybody was really excited about this new Ghost Steel type, and after the first week, you know, Aegislash kind of became the standard Pokemon that everybody was using, and it just kind of became this nuisance, and kind of gained this infamous status of a really annoying Pokemon that everybody uses, and you just simply have to prepare for it, because Aegislash is a really dangerous Pokemon, and this moveset definitely has a lot of potential to cause some destruction. So, starting with its ability Stance Change. It doesn't get any other abilities, and that is what makes Aegislash Aegislash. So there we go. And the nature I have chosen for this set is Brave Nature, which is plus attack minus speed nature. And I will talk about that a bit more in just a bit. And then we got a few item options here. First one being Leftovers, because Aegislash, it doesn't have any other sort of reliable recovery move, and because it is so bulky with those 150 defenses, you might as well boost those up, and coupled with the King Shield, it may gain you some extra recovery. So Leftovers kind of just a natural item on a bulky tank such as Aegislash. And then another option that I got here is Weakness Policy, because we already saw Aegislash already, it only has 4 weaknesses, and it doesn't have any 4 times weaknesses, only 2 times weaknesses, and coupled with those godly defenses, it can take so many hits. And since the best way to really deal with Aegislash is to hit it with a super effective move, Weakness Policy is kind of a natural choice to put on it, because it can take those super effective moves and then get an extra attack and a special attack boost, for that matter, which can really turn the tables once you couple that with also Sword Stance. So in one turn you have a possibility to get up to +4, which is definitely something really dangerous, and Aegislash, it just simply has the bulk to abuse this item to its fullest. One of the best users of this new item, Weakness Policy, and definitely an item that you should consider when using Aegislash. And then last but not least, I have chosen Balloon. And I faced a Balloon Aegislash a few times, and it kind of caught me off guard, because, you know, currently the team that I have, my best way to deal with Aegislash is my check, which is my Excadrill, and then I saw a Balloon, freaking Balloon Aegislash, and I was kind of caught off guard by it. And I also saw a Sugarberry Aegislash, which is also a decent option, because unlike Balloon, Sugarberry doesn't note your opponent that you have that item, so you have even a better surprise factor if you don't get to save and keep your Aegislash for late game. But because powerful ground type moves are one of the best ways to deal with Aegislash, Balloon and Sugarberry are kind of natural choices that you could consider. I don't think they're as good as Leftovers or Weakness Policy, but still definitely an option that can throw your opponent off guard. And I guess you could be using those other kind of berries that reduce the super effective damage taken. For example, Orca Berry that reduces the fire type moves power by half, so that's also a decent option. But still, you know, Balloon and Sugarberry would be the better options, although still kind of shadowed by Leftovers and Weakness Policy that are, in my opinion, the preferred items. But now, let's jump to the effort value. So we got a really simple EV spread here. 252 EVs in HP, 252 EVs in attack, and then the rest are just thrown into defense, so you can take a few EQs, you know, at least slightly better. But yeah, like I said, a really simple spread, because Aegislash with those godly defenses again is really gonna appreciate the extra bulk it can get. So definitely the way you want to go is just maximize its hit points, and when you couple that with those defenses, Aegislash can definitely take a beating. And then because in the offensive blade stance or the blade form, it can definitely dish out some damage, you also want to maximize its damage output, so simply go with max attack, and there you go. But I do want to give you the benefit of a doubt of changing this EV spread, because in the future, once we just get more adapted to the metagame, know exactly what we are dealing and up against, especially with the Pokemon Bank coming out in December. There's going to be a lot more Pokemon available, a lot more to deal with Aegislash also. So once that happens, once we know everything, you might want to change your EV spread so that you are able to take some certain hits better. So for example, let's say we put 100 EVs from the attack over to its defense. It might make a difference in a sense that some weaker Earthquake is only gonna be able to 3-hit KO you instead of 2-hit KO you, and that might make a difference in a sense that you're able to set up 2 Sword Stances instead of just 1, which more than plenty makes up for the fact that you put those defense EVs over as opposed to putting them to attack, which means that you wouldn't be able to take a certain hit in the first place. But yeah, I guess this was a really narrow and a shallow example, but we'll just have to make sure what we are actually dealing with, and once we know for sure what we're up against in the future, once the metagame develops more, we might be able to make a better EV spread for Aegislash. But this is a really good standard spread that you can definitely start using Aegislash with. And then I have mentioned the 0 speed IVs, and this goes back to the brave nature I mentioned earlier. So a minus speed nature coupled with 0 speed IVs if just possible. It's not necessary, but you know, it could be really useful in some certain situations, because coupled with the stance change ability, how you want to be operating Aegislash is that, like I said earlier, first you take a hit in the defense form, and then you flip over to the blade form, and then you retaliate. And the move that we got that mostly get affected by this would be the Sacred Sword. So again, let's say you get hit by a weaker Earthquake, and then you boost up with your Sword Stance, for example, and then if you're able to take another one, then you take another EQ, you stay in the shield form, being able to take a hit that you otherwise wouldn't. Then you retaliate with the Sacred Sword, and then if you are not able to finish it off with Sacred Sword, you go for the Shadow Sneak. Again, this is just, you know, one example, but that's how you want to be utilizing Aegislash. You always want to take a hit first in the shield form and then change into the offensive blade form. And coupled with 0 IVs, you might be slower than some already slow walls. And for example, you know, because Aegislash has base 60 speed, you might be, if you got 0 speed IVs, you will be slower than all the standard base 55 walls. I think, well, really the only one that would come to my mind would be Blissey, but you know, on some cases, you know, it would really suck if you would not be able to kill Blissey with non-boosted Sacred Sword, and you would turn into offensive mode and then just get killed with a flamethrower of Blissey. That would really suck. I'm not sure if Aegislash can knock out Blissey in one hit with a stack move, but that would be just one example. So it's not that necessary, but there are just few examples, few situations that where it could just come in handy. But the point being that you always want to take a hit first and then change into the offensive mode and retaliate. And then let's talk about the movesets. So we got Sword Stance, King Shield, Shadow Sneak, and Sacred Sword. And starting with Sword Stance, of course, the boosting move of choice. You know, Aegislash is a sword, so it's naturally going to be boosting up with that Sword Stance, getting that +2 attack. And then we got the King Shield, which allows you to turn back into the defensive shield stance after you have attacked. And it's kind of necessary to have it on the set to abuse the bulk of Aegislash to the fullest potential. And also, if your opponent happens to make contact with the King Shield, your opponent will get -2 attack. So there's definitely something that you can abuse with Aegislash and buy more opportunities to set up. Let's say, for example, you're up against a Choice Banded Scissor or a Choice Banded Azumarill. You just go for that King Shield. They will instantly get -2 attack, because most of the attacks that they have access to make contact with the King Shield. So you give them -2 attack, you get that opportunity to boost up even further, and then you're pretty much set to go. So a really naturally good move, and also again it goes well with the leftovers. You'll be getting some recovery, but I do gotta mention something about the King Shield. It does not protect you against status moves. So for example, if you're up against the Breloom, you go for the King Shield and Breloom goes for the Spore. It will hit right through the King Shield and put it to sleep. And this also applies for the Will-O-Wisp, which is, I think, something that you will most certainly have to be scared about. So if you go for the King Shield, it will not protect you against any kind of status moves. You can still get status. King Shield only applies to moves that deal damage. And then, of course, our attacking moves of choice are Shadow Sneak. And this is a move that kind of bypasses the problem that Aegislash has with its speed, because Shadow Sneak, it has that +1 priority, and when you couple that with 150 base attack and priority, this is a deadly move that Aegislash can definitely take advantage of. And then our last move, but not the least, of course, is Sacred Sword. And you know, Ghost and Fighting have always had pretty good neutral type coverage. I don't know if there's some new Pokemon now with the Fairy typing out that would resist this combination, but it's still overall really good type combination. What you could have on the last slot is Iron Head, but still overall you are gonna wanna have that best possible neutral coverage, because you're gonna be setting up, then it would kind of just suck if you would get it walled by something like a let's say Skarmory, for example, that you simply couldn't hit with Iron Head and Shadow Sneak very well. So these moves all together, Shadow Sneak and Sacred Sword, they bring you the best possible neutral coverage. But now let's look at some of the other moves that Aegislash has access to. But gotta say, when you look at the move pool that Aegislash has, the moves Sword Stance, King's Shield, Shadow Sneak and Sacred Sword, they just stand out there. They are simply the best moves, and they are just the moves that Aegislash was meant to be used with. But we do have some other options. Iron Head, for example, for another stab move, but it's just really hard to slice in because it brings worse coverage than Sacred Sword, and you want to have Shadow Sneak for priority, so it's like really difficult to put in there, but it is an option, like I mentioned earlier. Then if you want to boost your speed, you do have the option to use Auto-Demise, but even after you use it once and double your speed, you're still going to be slower than base 100 Scarfers, such as Flygon, for example, so that kind of blows. And then there is Shadow Claw, but you know, Shadow Sneak priority, slow Pokemon, so yeah. And then Pursuit, that's an option to Pursuit trap some Pokemon, because Aegislash is going to be forcing a lot of switches, but outside of that, it's not really that good of a move, and again, you're better off with Shadow Sneak. Same base power, but stab and priority, so there's that. And Aerial Ace, not much to say about that. Night Slash still brings worse coverage than a Ghost type move. Head Smash, a powerful move, but recoil is not appreciated on a bulky Pokemon such as Aegislash, so not really a good option and brings worse coverage anyways. And then we got Substitute and Toxic. They are options, but still I think you're better off using Aegislash's offensive capabilities with its unique ability. And then on the special side we got Shadow Ball and Flash Cannon, and then of course Hidden Power. So you could potentially be running a special set with the 150 base special attack. It does have that certain surprise factor to it, but still kind of outclassed by the physical sets. And yeah, on the Hidden Power, if you want to be running like a special set, like with Auto-Demise and 3 special attacks, you want to be running, I guess, Hidden Power as coverage, and it could be fighting for that good neutral coverage, or then it could potentially be Ice for those ground types. You know, if something like Gliscor or Landers comes in, you might be able to hit them and catch them off guard with that Hidden Power Ice. So I think those would be like at least some decent alternative options if you want to consider them. And next, let's take a look at some of the possible counters / checks and partners for good old Aegislash. So starting with some counters and checks, some bulky ground types in general deal well with Aegislash. So a few to mention here would be Hippowdon, Landers, Therian, Gliscor, Donphan, and Quagsire. Hippowdon, good natural bulk. Landers T has Intimidate. Gliscor has Poison Heal, so it doesn't really care if Aegislash tries to stall it with King's Shield, because it will only get recovery back. And Donphan, kind of the same thing with Hippowdon. And then Quagsire, special mention because it has the ability Unaware. And all of these Pokemon can of course retaliate back with powerful Earthquake, which does not get affected by the King's Shield. And then some more offensive checks we would have in the ground type section. Diggersby, Garchomp, Excadrill, Mamoswine, and yeah, that's all that I really have at this time. But Diggersby doesn't get affected by Shadow Sneak because it is part normal type, and it has huge power Earthquake to retaliate, and especially with Choice Band, that's an easy one-hit KO on the most standard spreads pretty much. And Garchomp, it can Mega Evolve and hit with a powerful EQ, and even Choice Banded EQ would do a bunch of damage if you want to be running that. So that's an option. And then Excadrill, I wanted to give a special mention to Exca because if Aegislash is used as a spin blocker, it's not going to be a spin blocking Excadrill anytime soon because EQ kind of destroys it. And then Mamoswine, you know, doesn't really check it the best, but again, another option to check it with Earthquake. And then a few interesting ones would be Sableye and Spiritomb, because they got the Will-O-Wisp and also Foul Play. So definitely with more defensive spreads, you have a good check in your hands with Sableye and Spiritomb. And then Malamar, probably one of the most interesting ones, because it has access to the contrary ability. So let's say Aegislash uses King Shield and you go for Night Slash. You would end up actually getting +2 attack instead of -2. And also Malamar, you could be running Topsy-Turvy to change the stat boosts of Aegislash. But then again, that's more of a move that you would mostly want to abuse in doubles, but it is still an option if you want to do some shenanigans. And Malamar also has access to foul play if you want to be using that, so there we go. And then one last thing I would like to mention would be Klefki, because if you're running, again, defensive spread, Klefki is able to take some hits, definitely, from the Aegislash, and you can also retaliate back with the foul play, so that's a decent option. But in general, ground types, bulky ground types are the way to go. Currently, we don't have access to Landorus Therian, but once we get the Pokemon Bank, hopefully that problem should be fixed as well. But then some partners for our good old Aegislash here. So flying types in general, because really the best way, the closest things that come to countering Aegislash are the bulky ground types I mentioned at the beginning. So Hippo, Landorus, Therian, Gliscor, Donphan, Quagsire. So they are going to be hitting it hard with Earthquakes. So you may want to have some flying types around to dodge those Earthquakes. And for example, Rotom W would be a pretty good one, because it has a levitate ability, so that's another way to dodge those Earthquakes besides, you know, the flying types. And it can also retaliate back with the powerful Hydro Pumps. Hit those things, Hippowdon, Landorus, Therian, Gliscor, Donphan, all of them. They are hit hard by Rotom W, so it would be a pretty good partner. Also Skarmory, because it can take those physical attackers really well and proceed to set up some spikes. So that would be a decent option if you do want to run another steel type on your team. And then just in general, besides Rotom, you know, some other hard-hitting special water types, such as, let's say, Politoed, that also brings the rain. That would be decent support for Aegislash, because that means Aegislash wouldn't have its fire weakness at least for a few turns when the rain is up. So there's that, and Politoed can retaliate with those powerful Hydro Pumps in the rain. And then Vaporeon would be a decent one, another bulky water to deal with those more bulky ground types, and it can also pass down some wishes for it. For the Aegislash and for itself. And then as more of an offensive option, we have Keldeo, because again, you know, powerful Hydro Pumps kind of destroy all those bulky ground types. So there is that. And now I've pretty much said everything I wanted about Aegislash, and this time I really tried to apply the rule of kill your darlings, but we are still going almost half an hour long. So I'll just try to make a little short summary and then call it an episode. So some pluses and minuses. So I got a lot of good things to say about Aegislash. Starting with typing, ability, stats, and the 4 moves of doom. This is really a perfect harmony that Aegislash has going on for itself. It's Aegislash, like a perfect example of something really creative, something different that Game Freak was able to create, but which is still like really competitively good. It has this hidden potential. It's not really hidden. Everybody knows about it, at least after watching this, if you already didn't. But it is just such a perfect Pokemon. So as really the only downside I would really have on it, I have this word here of predictionception. And this kind of goes back to the 4 moves of doom, because Aegislash still has kind of limited move pool. Its other options, you know, as we went through them earlier, they have potential, but they're not really as good as the 4 moves of doom. So on that note, Aegislash is kind of predictable, but then when you face it and when you have to play around the King Shield and the Swords Dance, it's always this prediction game that which move is it going to be using, and when you're using Aegislash, you have to predict what your opponent is going to do, and it can really turn tables in one turn, depending if you make the right prediction or not. So Aegislash is really like a one-trick pony, but it just performs its job as a pony so well that it's not really a problem. So I guess it would be just kind of like a minor complaint. But then again, if Aegislash would be any better than it already is with its move pool or its stats, it would definitely be broken, because a lot of people already say that it is broken and over centralizing, but there are still ways to deal with it, like I talked about earlier. So only time will tell if it will be truly over centralizing, but it's definitely gonna be a top OU tier Pokemon in this generation. And with that being said, I think I'm gonna call this an episode. So thank you everyone so much for watching. Hopefully some of you were able to listen through my talkings again. I really find it difficult to make this show like any shorter. Perhaps in the future, if there are some Pokemon that I have less things to talk about, then perhaps I will make some shorter episodes. But at least with this concept, with the new Pokemon, you know, there's nothing I can really leave out. I have so much things to say about, and I just don't want to make this into a stupid short list of things where I just mention about things but then don't really talk about them. So I just had to say everything I just said. So all of you who did watch this, thank you so much. Until next time with something different, this is Spade signing out. Peace.